Hello from my story called The Rebirth of the Aral Sea. A film needs to be created with beautiful scenes describing what is happening in Russian. The Rebirth of the Aral Sea. A meeting on the water problems of Kazakhstan and the Aral Sea is being held at the Water Institute named after Kanish Satpayev. The employee Yerzhan Smogilov is decided to be sent on a business trip. He has been working at the institute for about 15 years and has good experience in water management. Yerzhan arrives in Aralsk, a city on the shore of the Aral Sea, where there used to be water, but now it is receded from the city by a distance of 15 kilometers. Meets with a delegation which consists of 6 people, 1 foreigner from an international organization, 1 journalist, and 2 employees of the Aral Sea Rescue Fund, and 2 local officials. They get acquainted, discuss the shallowing of the Aral Sea and the problems associated with it, such as the remnants of salt and sand on the bottom of the Aral Sea. Then they get into 2 cars and drive to the shore of the Aral, which is far from the village. They drive along the bottom of the Aral Sea. The car gets stuck in places in the sands. On the bottom of the Aral Sea, salt dust formed, it rises with the wind and is carried through the air throughout the region. This is an ecological disaster. Journalist Svetlana shoots the landscapes of the seabed to make a report. They drive to the shore of the remaining Aral Sea, which has decreased by 10 times, inspect the shore, discuss the problem of the fishing industry, whether there is any fish left after the salinization of the water in the Aral. Yerzhan looked towards the Aral Sea. Somewhere in the distance a hill could be seen. It was Vozrozhdeniya Island. A good name, Yerzhan thought. Then along the coast of the Aral Sea they are driving towards Kizilorda. Svetlana films everything in order to make a report and writes notes. In one place, the car gets stuck, and there they understand that they will not be able to reach the shore. They decide to turn off and go along another road where there is less sand. Oldman. The old man left the house early in the morning and went to the local cemetery. Here lay all his family, his wife, 2 daughters and 1 son. They all died at a young age from diseases of the local ecology. When the Aral began to dry up, salt dust began to rise and people and animals had to breathe it. It also got into the water they drank and food, and people began to get sick with all sorts of diseases. So, in a few years, his whole family died. They wanted to move, but didn't have time. So the old man remained in these places, and a few more families remained because they had nowhere to go. From a village consisting of 100 houses, 3 or 4 houses remained. The rest were dismantled. The roofs collapsed, the walls collapsed. Once a fishing village, located on the seashore, where relatives and tourists came in the summer to relax and swim and fish, turned into ruins as after a war. The old man came to the cemetery, talked to his relatives, remembered the time when they were alive, sat down, and prayed. Then he got up and went towards the bottom of the Aral Sea, to where what killed his whole family and destroyed everything alive was located. Jut, the old man called him. He looked into the distance and saw his black cloud rising above the desert and moving towards him. The old man was a keeper. He took a stick and resolutely went to meet him. An hour later, the old man and Jut approached each other and the fight began. The old man wrapped his face with a scarf, closed his nose and mouth so that only his eyes remained. With them, he looked into the eyes of Jut. A huge dust curtain, the height of a 10-story building, stood and spun in place. At the top of this dust giant, in the depths, 2 holes protruded like eye sockets, and a terrible howl and whistle emanated. The old man looked into Jut's eyes and shouted, "Jot, lie down," in Kazakh, began to shout at him, showering curses, beating and waving a stick like a sword. Jut then advanced on the old man, enveloping him with dust and sand, then retreated from him. This went on for about 10 minutes. The old man waved a stick in the air, drawing a line and cutting the air, as if he were cutting with an invisible long whip. But it worked. He cut off Jut's dusty body in parts, and it then fell onto the sand. So after some time from the giant dust cloud remained a small part, and it slowly descended down and howled as if from pain. At this time, Erjan with the commission were passing by, and saw at first in the distance a huge dust cloud, which was getting smaller and smaller. And when they drove closer, they saw a man waving a stick who was in the center of a dust cloud resembling a tornado, which was getting smaller and less, and at the end, it completely subsided. The old man swung his stick for the last time and read a prayer known only to him, and knelt down, took off the scarf from his nose, took a deep breath, began to stroke and wash his face with his hands. Sand got into his eyes, nose, mouth, and even in his ears. He had a bottle of water with him. He took it out, took a few sips, and wanted to get up, but he had no strength. Suddenly, he heard some kind of hum behind him. Could it be Jude again? the old man thought, and turned around. Behind, two large jeeps drove up and stopped near him. Several people came out, talked among themselves, and two of them approached him. "Assalamu alaikum. What are you doing here?" asked one of them. "I'm fighting with the sand," the old man replied, catching his breath. "It seems you have won." The second one supported the conversation. "We are going to the neighboring village. You probably came from there. Do you want us to give you a ride?" The old man agreed. He was very tired. They helped him get up. Everyone got into the car and drove off. On the road, they drove up to a village of 5 houses and met several residents there. The old man turned out to be from this all, located on the shore of the former sea. After he buried all his relatives here, he stayed here to fish and protect the local peace, he said. They began to discuss the problem of the Aral Sea, asking how they live, what they live on. Fishermen said that they have lived here for a long time and catch fish, but the sea has receded far away, and it has become difficult to get to it and then catch fish and bring it because you drive on sand where the car can get stuck. Salt dust rises, and it is sometimes impossible to breathe. Salt dust from the bottom of the Aral Sea rises during wind and blizzard and is carried all over the world, even reaching Europe. During the conversation, the old man who told all this came close to Yerjan. He said that he wanted to say something to Yerjan. He took his hand and said, "Balam, save the Aral." It was visible that he was getting sick and he was falling. Yerjan managed to support the old man so that he would not fall. The men who were next to the old man picked him up and carried him into the house. After a while, one man came out and said that the old man had died. Yerjan is in shock and says maybe they need to help them with something, but they say they don't need anything. Let them leave. Yerjan and his companions get into the cars and leave. The next day, they meet with the whole delegation and with this journalist and discuss everything. They make a report. In the end, the employees of the fund ask the delegation not to stand aside from the problems of the Aral Sea and to help the fund to save the Aral Sea. Erjan said goodbye and went back to Karaganda, very shocked by what he saw. The scariest thing that Yerjan realized was that it was salt dust on the bottom of the Aral Sea. Nothing grew on it. It rose in the wind, it was impossible to breathe it, and it turned everything into a desert. Especially the people who live in these areas were to be pitied. That old man who, you could say, died in his arms, really shocked him. Yerjan was very impressed, and upon arrival in Karaganda, coming to work the next day, went to the director of the institute to discuss his trip, the problem of the Aral Sea, and ways to restore the Aral Sea. He spoke about the fund's plans to build a dam and plant trees on the bottom of the Aral Sea to combat desertification. The director of the institute replied that the desertification that is happening in that region is a very big problem. It is necessary to look for ways out of this problem. At the same time, a huge amount of meltwater accumulates in the center and north of Kazakhstan, which causes flooding. It would be possible to redirect this water into the Aral Sea. It was supposed to build a hydraulic unit, 5 pumping stations, a canal, and 1 regulating reservoir. The only partially implemented section of this project is the Irtish-Karaganda Canal. Erjan, after a trip to Aral and seeing the picture there, wanted to somehow help in this matter. And also, this person who died before his eyes very much asked him to save Aral, and the employees also asked. Yerjan said that he would like to work on the project to save the Aral Sea. The fund's employees asked for cooperation and assistance. The director thought for a minute and replied that there used to be projects to save the Aral Sea. They wanted to create a cascade of hydroelectric power stations on the Irtish, but now there are no such projects. You work on this with Kanat. I will tell him to help you. Good. Yerjan rejoiced. Kanat was the head of the project department and worked longer than Yerjan at the Water Institute. Yerjan went to Kanat the next day. Kanat said that it was possible to take on a project to explore the channels for transferring meltwater to the Aral Sea. Yerjan agreed, and they both after work started a project to explore the channels of meltwater into the Aral Sea. Let's call this project the Revival of the Aral Sea, Yerjan suggested, remembering about Vozrozhdeniya Island. Let's, Kanat agreed. In a couple of weeks after Erjan and Kanat started, they created a project to build a canal from the Karaganda Reservoir to Lake Sasakal, and from it a canal to the Bidayikskoye Reservoir, from where the water goes into the Sarisu River, which reaches the city of Kizilorda, and the Sirdarya River, and further flows into the Aral Sea. During the development of the project, they substantiated that it is possible to increase water intake from the Karaganda Reservoir, and if this water is brought by canal to Lake Sasakol and further to the Sarisu River, it will flow by gravity into the Aral Sea. Canals with a width of 30 meters and a depth of 3 meters The length of the canal is about 70 kilometers. Between the lake and the reservoir, there was a small rise of about 20 meters. There it was necessary to build a divide for lifting water and a pumping station. For the pumping stations, it was possible to build a mini hydroelectric power station to supply electricity to the pumping station. Yerzon liked this idea. Mini HPP can supply electricity to the city that is nearby as well. These are green technologies that do not harm the environment. Approximately 1 billion cubic meters of water. This channel along the Sarisu River could give water to the Aral. It could not fill it, but it would not have allowed the Aral Sea to disappear. The Aral Sea became shallower every year and could have dried up completely and disappeared, which would have become a grandiose catastrophe, not only for Kazakhstan, but for the whole of Central Asia and neighboring countries. On the bottom of the Aral Sea lies 1 billion tons of salt dust, which rises with the winds and causes desertification.